Welcome once again to Global Reports here on Liberty Television, this time coming from our Kaduna studios. You can watch us live on StarTime, on GoTV, on Free TV and Multi TV. And you can watch us on these channels throughout Nigeria and throughout West Africa. You can also watch us on the internet worldwide on YouTube at Liberty TV Kaduna. As we normally do, we look at some of the news reports which are featured around the world on television. And we look at the most trending news which is occurring in the world. I'm joined in the studio today by our two old friends, Abdul Hassan and Sani Garba. Welcome to the studio.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome, Sani.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Brooks.
This week, I mentioned at the end of my program last week that something was happening in Zimbabwe, and something has happened in Zimbabwe. President Mugabe was put under house arrest in the last few days, and his party, the ZANU-PF party, has expelled him from the party. Up to now, he's been asked to step down as president, but so far he appears to have refused. Watch this clip from BBC Television.
Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party says it's decided to launch impeachment proceedings against Robert Mugabe on Tuesday. The party has been meeting for a second day to discuss what to do with a man who's been their undisputed leader for 37 years. On Sunday, they dismissed him as head of the party, but when he appeared on TV that evening, he refused to resign. A senior party official, Paul Mangwana, has been speaking to reporters about what will happen next.
This should take a maximum of 2 days. We are expecting the motion to be moved tomorrow, the committee to be set up tomorrow, and hopefully by Wednesday, because the charges are so clear, we expect that by Wednesday we should be able to vote in Parliament.
He could be gone that soon.
What are
Yes.
the charges? What are the charges?
The main charge is that he has allowed his wife to usurp constitutional power when she has no right to run government. But she's insulting civil servants, the vice president, at public rallies. They are denigrating the army, and those are the charges. One of the major charges is that he has refused to implement the constitution of Zimbabwe. Particularly, we had elections for the provincial councils, but up to now they've not been put into office. Thirdly, he's of advanced age, that he no longer has the physical capacity to run government.
Were you shocked by last night that he didn't resign?
Well, he's a stubborn man. He can hear the voices of the people, but he's refusing to listen.
Paul Mangwana there in Harare. Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party says it's decided to...
This is an ongoing situation. As of, I understand, this afternoon, the governments, the House, the government house, the MPs are debating his impeachment, as I understand it right now. The whole issue came to a head when Mugabe dismissed his vice president and wanted to push his wife in the position of vice president, assumingly to allow her to take over and allow him to resign. But the vice president who left the country is now back in the country, and the situation is fluid, to put it mildly. Abdul, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's really the situation in Zimbabwe is really uncalled for. The stalemate, or rather the near collapse of government machinery in that part of the country is something very, very worrisome. I like to take us back memory lane a little. You know, this is a guy who came into power, you know, where he is one of the founding fathers of Zimbabwean struggle, you know, albeit to the independence. And yes, in Rhodesia. These are you know, people who have laid their lives to liberate Zimbabwe, and he has not only people think he has perpetuated himself into power all these 37 years, but I tend to disagree with that assertion, because he has gone to the polls, over and over series of times to be re-elected. Although you might say the election
we're not free and fair.
We're not free and fair, but
times.
Which election is free and fair in the Horn of Africa? Tell me which election is free and fair, even in the whole world.
Yeah, but the point is the opposition parties have been kept down and forcibly, militarily, even arrested.
Well, Mr.
Sani,
Brooks,
what do you think? What do you say?
Well, to me, what we are experiencing now in Zimbabwe is a welcome development, because we have been waiting for this to happen for long. Most of African leaders, I don't know what is disturbing them, because I see no reason why somebody will be leading a country for the past 30 years, and he reached certain age, at least 93 years. It's not a small thing. How can a 93 man of age can be a ruler of a certain country? It's not possible. He has lost most of his memories, and I think that is what even lead for the old man to decide that he will now bring his wife to be in his position. Well, all I can say now, it's not only Zimbabwe president that is faced with such type of challenges in Africa, like our next door neighbor, Paul Biya.
Yeah.
So this will be a signal to the Cameroonian president, because I see no reason why, if you are ruling people, they say they are not okay with the way and manner you are ruling them. At least you have to go honorably, not to the
point I always think, these guys, they've made the money. Whether they made it by fair means or foul, they've got money, they've collected money.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to care about the legacy. Someone like Nelson Mandela didn't care about how much money he had. He cared about the legacy he'll leave behind. He resigned. He didn't resign even. He just said he wasn't going to stand. He said, I'll stand for one term, then I'll step down, which he did. Like a gentleman.
Nelson Mandela is a gentleman, and I don't think we have somebody like him in Africa.
You can compare Robert Mugabe with Nelson Mandela?
No, he cannot be compared.
Abdul, can you compare him?
Well, these are two different people.
They both fought.
These are two different people, and they all fought for independence. So they have certain things in common. That's the struggle for the liberation of the Southern African states, which Zimbabwe is one of those countries. And you will agree that most African leaders want to perpetuate themselves, in power. They want to stay for life, and things like that. Even here in Nigeria, we had a similar incident at the time of the military Abacha. Abacha actually wanted to transform himself into democratic.
Even Babangida.
Even Babangida wanted to do the same. So the Africans have this tendency, this stay tight attitude. They want to cling to power without actually weighing how far they have been going. Have they actually met the people's aspirations? Do the people actually want them to be in power? Those are the questions that you ask themselves. But because they have the apparatus of power, everything is in their hands, they feel they can manipulate, cajole people, and get away with it. It's not a new thing. It's a common sight in Africa to see people wanting to stay tight in leadership.
But as that American folk singer sang many, many years ago, the times they are a-changing.
Times are changing, really.
Bob Dylan says. And times have changed. Look at even our current president. He's not planning to stay in power. He's planning to do a job, then get out, as far as we understand.
He actually did say he's going to go for a term.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by popular demand, I see that
He may go for another term.
Yes, he might go for another time, because this is a man. Nigeria has never had a leader like Buhari.
He's again looking for the nation,
because of his
legacy.
Because of his legacy.
Yes.
He has a track record which is very enviable. And anybody would want a man like that too. That's a man who has been rated by the world leaders as a very, very a complete gentleman, and somebody who is anti-corruption, who wants to, bring some changes, dividends of democracy to the people. And so if Buhari peradventure says he wants to go back, it's not a surprise, because Nigerians definitely will want Buhari to go back. Otherwise, the war against corruption and all those other social vices will be discarded. I don't see anybody coming to actually continue. Government should be government of continuity. But even within the APC cycle, I don't see anybody stepping into his shoes. That's the issue. So I wish he could have another term.
But going back to Zimbabwe, it was quite interesting to watch how the army approached, shall we say, the problem. They tried to do it, and they continue to do it in a very if you can say, a democratic way.
There's nothing democratic about the army. Let me tell you something, Mr. Brooks. The army can never be democratized. They are people who have vowed and they have sworn by the gun, by the barrel of gun, they have no business in stepping into in the truncating the government of Mugabe. More so that it's a democratically elected government. They have no business. I think there should have been other ways of going about it. Maybe the AU should have stepped in.
No, but
now that the military has taken over, the AU would have made a move.
But don't you think people wanted? People were saying, okay, let the army move in, let the army do it properly, just to put him under pressure, then use the power of the elected government to move the situation forward.
I'm not in support of what the atrocities, so to say, committed by Mugabe, over the years in Zimbabwe. Their backwardness, their 20,000 Matabele land. He has reclaimed all the farming lands from the whites. So if you say there could be an external influence in this whole incident, I wouldn't be surprised.
Of course, but the point is it's okay. There's the violence, there's the everything else which went on, but the economy was the key thing. The Zimbabwe economy at one stage was the worst economy in the world.
I think
totally collapsed.
I will subscribe to your.
And what at the centre, as I understand it, of the collapse was the then so-called white-owned farms, who were the most profitable ventures and producing. In fact, Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of East Africa, was supplying grain and maize to all the countries. I agreed the land reform was needed, but I think the way he went about it was wrong. South Africa had a similar problem, still has a similar problem. A lot of whites from the old days still own lots of land, but they're going about it in a different way. They're allowing a long-term change, empowering the black Africans to own farms, to develop farms. And the key, of course, is to have mechanized farming, which can yield the better results. So what is your opinion, Sani, on that?
No, for me, I'm not in support of any of Mugabe's policy. Why? Because this Mugabe, believe he fought for the country's independence, but times come where the people of the country need change. And this man refused to allow them to have the change they want. To the extent he sent these these white farmers, of which is a great blow to the country economy, because assumingly that the white people are still there and they are still doing what they are expected to do as far as farming is concerned, their economic, I don't think, would be in a problem.
Yeah, but the problem was that Mugabe gave that white-owned land to his party friends and relatives, people who had no experience.
And they are not utilizing it properly. So that is where the problem is all about. And
many of those so-called white farmers actually came to Nigeria. I think quite a few are still around.
I would like to touch what my friend Abdul have just said about Buhari. Actually, if Buhari wanted to maintain his integrity as a gentleman, I don't think he should come for the second time, because he have already promised Nigerians that he is only coming. That is what is bringing problem to us in Africa. A president on the process to be into power, he will be promising people what he cannot be able to execute. Because President Muhammadu Buhari have mentioned it time without number that he is only coming for one time.
Yeah,
and now,
what if he wasn't able to finish the job in one term? Would you not consider giving him another term to finish the job?
Well, it's left on to Nigerians.
Yeah.
But to me, as a Muslim, I respect promise.
Okay.
Once you promise something, you should try at all costs, by all means, to fulfill what you have. That is what gives Mandela the respect. It's not that struggle for independence.
It's how he performed as a president.
That is it. And he fulfilled and stick to the promise he have made. But now some other people in this country, those that are dubious, more especially our dubious governors, are now trying, and some ministers are now trying to bring President Muhammadu Buhari, because they know they cannot be able to get anything. No any common Nigerian will trust them unless what Mr. Muhammadu Buhari tell the common man, because Buhari is a kind of a man that have respect for the common man in Nigeria. So I don't think if he will maintain his integrity, if he stay for this second time, I don't think he will get it right.
Can I take you back to Zimbabwe?
Yeah.
We started in Zimbabwe. We're still a little bit in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Where does Zimbabwe go from here? I think today Mugabe is facing impeachment by the members of parliament. Yeah. And I think, from what I hear, some of the opposition parties, including the MDC, and Morgan Chandrai, are coming together with the ZANU-PF to try and form a coalition government and try and press for a democratic coalition and future proper democratic elections.
Well, that is a confusion. Why I say it's a confusion, this Mugabe has a vice president. Then why not to give the vice president and at least to finish the time, and then election day will be fixed whereby everybody can come, including the Changarai.
Yeah. Now the vice president, by the way, the name is Emerson Mnangagwa. I understand he's not got a very clean record either. He's also been involved in some
shady deals, financial misappropriation. Yes,
well,
the Paul Mwangana, the member of parliament, who is supposedly, I think, one of the top ranking party members of ZANU-PF,
on the screen, isn't it?
came on air himself and said that the impeachment process is on the way. Definitely Mugabe is going to go. But that aside, it is often said that the devil you know is better than the saint you don't know.
Yeah.
So who they're talking about forming a coalition of opposition and the ruling party. How true, or how feasible is it for the first time in the history of that country that, well, probably because of what has happened, this can now necessitate the coalition.
Yeah, and the point is, it's a relatively young, no, I mean the country is a young democracy in many ways.
Yes.
Although it's been a democratic country for 37 years since Mugabe, they've had very little experience of party politics because he is basically not allowed it. But we saw on the streets, we saw the video footage of TV footage from around the world of the people crying out, shouting out that Mugabe must go. In fact, I just saw today the Zimbabwe Students' Union have said no exams till Mugabe goes. They're going to boycott university until he steps down.
Yes.
So you've got the will of the people here.
See, the will of the people must be respected, because it's the people that put him there. And now the people are saying enough is enough. They have had a very terrible experience, if I should put it that way, over 37 years. If there's anything wonderful Mugabe has in stock that he has not unveiled, I don't think there's nothing. That's why he's been accused of corrupt tendencies and and the age issue is also a factor. He's not coherent any longer. He cannot remember certain things. And his wife has been accused of corruption too, that she's been siphoning the Zimbabwe money. There are instances where she bought trinkets, golds, as a place where she was pouring champagne.
That was her son's.
Yes, these are people who. It's a pity, honestly. My only problem was the intervention by the military. Because the military has been very unpopular of recent as far as democracy is concerned all over the world. So military coming to take over, saying under the pretext of trying to straighten things out so that but they have their own ulterior motives. We will not know until actually they bring out the timetable for election, if that is.
Abdul, thank you very much.
And how long are they going to do that? The military could stay in power for about 6 months before election.
This is a live streaming story, and I'm sure even by next week we have it on our program. We'll also have another story on that one. Let's move on to another thing. Just before I came on air, I saw that one of our vice presidents, that's Alex Ekweme, passed away yesterday. And I think we were comparing leaders, democratic leaders, and as I remember, I was in Nigeria when he was the vice president, to Shehu Shagari, correct? Yeah. And since then, in fact, both him and Shehu Shagari have been very simple people. They weren't corrupt, and they tried to stay simple people. In fact, I remember the first time I ever met Alex Ekweme was before he was vice president. He was in the company of a friend of mine, and he was driving his car. And because he was driving his car, I assumed he was a driver because he was dressed very casually, and I greeted him, and I started to talk to my friend, and he said, "Oh, I'd like you to meet my boss, architect Alex." I say, "Sorry, sir." And that's how he has always been. You wouldn't even think he was
a very simple,
vice president,
easygoing personality.
And this is
Shagari, Alex Ekweme, they are embodiment of simplicity.
And Buhari.
Yes, and Buhari.
A very simple man, yes.
These are honest. They are the few Nigerians that are honest, simple and easygoing. It's unfortunate. It's not as if they can be absolved completely of corruption. But we know that they are not corrupt because give and take, if you check all the leaders we've had in the past, you will know that Alex and Shagari are not corrupt. But their lieutenants, the ministers under them were very, very corrupt. Because I could remember the late Umaru Diko was part of that government.
He was.
And we knew the scandal he actually threw to the country. In fact, at a point, when Buhari came and toppled the government, he had to make sure that Umaru Diko was packaged in a crate
from
London to Nigeria. So that goes to tell you that it's not as if it's just Shagari, Alex Ekweme, but any other person below that level, they are corrupt.
Yeah.
They are. They have always been.
Gentlemen, we could talk all day and possibly all night. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up now. We're out of time, and we'd like to ask our numerous viewers, we hope, to join us again in the studio next Tuesday for another edition of Global Reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
I'm Abdul, and thank you very much, Sani.
Yeah.
Good night, viewers.
Yeah.